I am Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, everybody. This is going to be a little different. I think this may be a big time improvement, Toxie.
It might.
When I look around the room, it's just Toxie and I, and unbelievably, I'm looking at Kevin VanDam sitting on the couch.
He's here in person in West Point, Mississippi.
In West Point, Mississippi. I had to pinch myself.
Yeah, I was telling you, it's funny. I don't want to get Kevin in trouble. I was like, so Bobby's shaking hands with him. And I was like, here's Bobby Cole, who probably rather fish than hunt. And Kevin VanDam, who may rather hunt than fish.
Yeah, yeah. Well, just welcome here. You've been here a couple of days, and we've done some podcasts before, but boy, it's just fantastic
not in person
to have you here in person.
Yeah, it's been really special for me to come to West Point, to the home of Mossy Oak, to see the history. I've been around. You're welcome for me stopping in at the Mossy Oak store, by the way. Awesome place. It's great to go online and look, but to go there in person too, to be able to see everything. Again, you got a great website and it's a great place to go, and all those things are there. But man, it's just so cool to see all clothing wise, especially, to see everything, all the licensed stuff that you have there. You guys got a unbelievable lot going on around here. So I'm excited, man. It's going to be a fun week with the event coming up, but to get here and do this in person, special.
I tell you what, you got a twinkle in your eye. You got this little level of energy about you that that I've heard about, but to see it, tell
I love
us.
the outdoors, man. That's
well, he's excited. He's going to see the dogs. He's going to the nursery, check out the trees. All this, it's funny that kindred spirits align in life if you give it long enough. But it's like everything he loves is the things we do, and the things he does is the things we love. Is so similar. It's eerie.
Yeah.
Turkey hunting?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that.
So the one thing that has been interesting as, I've gotten to be part of the Mossy Oak family is I didn't realize early on just how absolutely head over heels ate up all of you are about turkeys.
Everybody.
So I take it kind of for granted where I'm at. But that being said, I've learned that you can't take it for granted, and I do a lot in my land management. Whitetails are definitely our focus, right? And we've got decent duck hunting. We're not on a flyway or anything like that. So we do a little bit thinking about mallards, and I definitely do with turkeys. I never did first, but now I'm all about helping the turkeys too, and doing that. We did a whole podcast, talked about a lot of that, and it's what I've got where we're at is unique. I know there's a lot of my friends around the country are not seeing, their turkey populations in a good place. So, we're really even ramping up our efforts even that much more. And this year, Mother Nature's been tough on my food plots and things like that for the whitetails, but it's like the best year ever for turkeys. The drought that we've had, keeping the vegetation from really being so thick. And what I see every day in my yard is crazy, tons of grasshoppers. So turkeys are doing really well. We focus on the deer, but I'm all about all of it. So growing up in Michigan, it was always about whatever the season was, right? So as far as fishing goes, it's the trout opener in April. Then it was the walleye opener. Then it was the bass opener. We have seasons, for it. It's very different than in the South, and it's the same with hunting seasons. I used to just look forward to the opening day of squirrel season.
Yep.
And now squirrels this year just got put on the the same list as coyotes. Like there's no season. You can hunt them anytime you want, shoot them any way you want.
Wow.
There's really, other than maybe hawks and owls, and I guess coyotes would get after them. They're really overpopulated, in our area. So they actually put them on the nuisance list. So,
wow, squirrels.
Had
wow.
not heard that.
No, I mean, and rabbit hunting was a big thing. And where I lived with my dad, I grew up doing a lot of pheasant hunting, and we had a lot of ruffed grouse, and now we hardly have a grouse anymore, hardly have a pheasant, no quail. We have jillions of doves, but we have no dove season in Michigan.
No dove season.
We just I raise them for them to fly down to you.
And it's been harder down here. Again, I think part of our migratory fowl problems are the weather, and they just don't ever come south.
Well, I know for ducks and things like that, I mean, there's so many people doing such a good job of, building great habitat and doing, a really good friend of mine at home just did a big DU wetlands project on his place where they restored a lot of this. He bought this farm, and they came in, they had one of their biologists come in, script out a whole project, and they did all the dirt work. And
wow,
he's got 170 acre farm, and he put a whole lot of it back into wetlands, and it's super cool to see. And,
that's kind of what everybody can't be that grandiose scale, but we keep saying all the time to win and fight the battle and win of conservation. What we need, everybody needs to be engaged, not just the few, with big trunks of land or, big names or the government or whoever. It's everybody just taking matters into their own hands. So, I mean, if we've got to compete with people keeping ducks in the north because they built too much good habitat, hey, you know what? I'm cheering for them. Because if it's better for the ducks, I'm good with whatever.
The one big thing I'll tell you that's different about where I live, and if you ever come up and turkey hunt with me like we talk about, you'll see is there's tons of small tracts of land, and there's a lot of people that even on 10 acres, or say they got 2 acres or an acre in their yard, they're putting a strip of food plot on the edge of their lawn. Wow. And I mean, we have so many deer around and things like that. What I'm saying is every little bit makes a difference anywhere you go. And there's so much more awareness now and knowledge out there about, being a gamekeeper, being conservation, about managing for different species, things you can do. I mean, this right here is one of the greatest tools there is. I mean, I look forward to every copy. And I'm not joking. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I started food plotting. Me and my best friend, and I mean, everybody wants to have better deer hunting, right? You want to have more deer. You want to have bigger deer. So I've been food plotting since I was a teenager, and I've learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, and things like that. But now there's so much knowledge out there, and there's so much more better information. And it doesn't matter if you're in Texas, Michigan, California, Maryland, or wherever. You can find great information that works in your local area, and varieties that work there, and practices, and how you can create a small little sanctuary, and we did a lot by trial and error, just experimenting with things. I'm in small tracts of land. I can't do a 40 acre clear cut when you only got 10 acres, but boy, if you clear an acre, you can create a little bedding spot on your little piece of paradise. And so
y'all is the deer population where you
are out of control.
I've always heard that about Michigan.
Yeah. So the one thing in Michigan that I'm not a huge fan of is they've opened, bow season, full season with crossbows. They've got a long youth season. They during muzzleloader season now you can use your in the southern part of the state where it's not rifle, it's just shotgun only. You can use straight wall cartridge or muzzleloader. You can use anything during the muzzleloader season, during the primitive. So, and it's because there's, so many car deer accidents. There's so many deer in close proximity. It's very, developed. Yeah. And the deer are they're good at adapting to living around a lot of people in neighborhoods. And it's just, it is. I mean, I planted, a 7-acre food plot at my house, and we had a drought, and I'm like, we got a rain and it popped up, and I'm like, man, it dried up, it's decimated, something's wrong. Well, I'm running these Spartan cameras, and I'm getting quite a few deer pictures. Well, shoot, I went out there and looked. I had 25 deer that I counted at one time at 2 hours before dark.
Right.
eating winter bulbs and sugar beets in August.
Wow.
They're not supposed to touch them until it gets cold. So so we have a numbers issue. We just some years ago we had a big bout of EHD that really got us rebalanced. That was 2014, and now we're starting to get to that point where and we do have better regulations. The state has done a better job. I mean, used to have to draw for a doe permit to get one.
Wow.
Now you can buy one. You can buy them over the counter, one a day.
Yeah.
So and
no limit. Just buy another one.
You can buy another one.
Well, good for them.
Wow, they're trying to kill some.
Yeah,
deer.
that's actually maybe a step. I think we get to kill 5, and they changed it where you could shoot all 5 in one day if you want to, but 5 was the limit. Alabama used to be a deer a day for 90 or 100 days, whatever it was.
For a long time.
Yeah, actually 105 days, I think it was. So they changed it now, and I think they limit you to 5 days. But I'll have to look and see.
Overall, people can't complain about their state agencies and these federal agencies at all because they are doing. I see it in fishing. I've been fishing professionally for 33 years. I announced my last season this year, but
wow.
These are the good old days in bass fishing. I mean, these lakes and they're not making more of them. We have arguably less water today than we did years ago, but state biologists, anglers themselves, a lot of different clubs and conservation groups, they're doing, we did a lot this year just through our foundation of habitat programs, stocking programs, cleanup programs. The awareness and the transferring of knowledge has carried over in the fishing world in a big way as well. And it has in the hunting community for sure. Just the way that I've watched in the last couple of years of how the turkey community, you would call it, people that they're passionate about turkey like you guys are around the country, all getting together and starting to collaborate and research and figure out what's going on, because there's definitely something happening out there in a lot of areas where the turkey numbers are down. I mean,
yes,
I have a place in Kansas that I go that you could go there in deer season in the fall and there'd be 250 turkeys in the field.
Wow.
Now there's not a turkey there, not one.
Wow.
On the same piece of
Yeah,
ground.
that's scary.
That really is.
We talk about it a lot here. We probably tilt the scales almost too much to turkeys, but it's our heart's in it down here. And there's a lot going on, and I think what we're starting to find out is it is a complex issue. There's 8 or 10 or 12 issues, actually, not 1 or 2. And it morphs geographically depending on where you are. It's different in Oklahoma. Is having a tough time. It's different than, whatever, Florida or Kansas or, every state's a little different. It makes it more complex.
Is Michigan dealing with wolves at all?
We don't have them in the lower part. Our wolves are coyotes.
Yeah.
And we do have, again, they're so adaptable.
Oh.
They're so good at living in close proximity to people and around houses and things like that. When I was a kid, we didn't have any coyotes in Southwest Michigan. Now, I mean, we have it's unbelievable, But even in my area, it hasn't really. The coyotes haven't affected, it's not decimated the turkey population.
Mm-mm.
And when I was a kid, we didn't have turkeys. They actually, in my exact area, the property that I hunted on as a kid, as a teenager, deer hunting, was the first place that they transplanted turkeys back into our area.
Wow. And
I was 16 at the time, and within 4 years we had a season. So it's a great conservation story what they were able to do with turkeys, not just right there, but kind of really they did that kind of all over the state, and we're in I think a pretty dang good place with them.
Oh yeah.
So everybody knows your fishing prowess. I mean, you've won it all, but
many times.
Listening to you talk about hunting, that twinkle that I was mentioning, I see it.
Oh yeah.
But tell me something that would for our audience that would say how possessed, obsessed you are with deer hunting.
It's not just me. It's my whole friend group. A lot of my friends that I grew up with, my kids. Yep. So I've kind of came full circle. When I was young, I was gung ho. I mean, we used to be a 4-buck state. You could kill 2 bucks with a bow and 2 with a gun. And I killed my 4 bucks every year. You know, I mean, you just learn. And the whole, you know, post-shot analysis with your friends and trophy hunting and that, it got to the point for me that it wasn't near as fun anymore. And when my kids were born, and, you know, I started to get them into the outdoors as a whole, not just hunting, but fishing. And in Michigan, you have to go through a hunter safety program. And at their time, they had to be 10 years old. There was no youth seasons or anything like that. So we went through that whole process. And when I started my boys back in hunting again, we started shooting bows when they were around it because of me. But just that whole process re-energized and reinvigorated me.
It did me the same.
Me personally. I mean, I could care less if I wanted to shoot one. I was with my son when he killed his first buck ever with a bow. I mean, in the stand with him, you know, I mean, I've had so many people on our place that I've brought out there to harvest does where it's the first time, their first experience deer hunting, their first deer. And just to see it, I mean, I've been fortunate to be able to hunt some good places, and you know, I've traveled to Canada and Texas and Kansas and Illinois and a lot of great places to hunt whitetails, and I've been, you know, successful in a lot of places. But it's more exciting for me to watch a new hunter or somebody like that, that thrill for them. And I've got some friends that are older that they're just getting into hunting now, and it's the same thing to see the excitement when a 4-point walks out. You know, to them, it just made me realize that, hey, the way we were looking at it and what, you know, how serious we were and how much pressure we put on, you know, not shooting anything that's, you know, out of the age structure or making a mistake in any way. It doesn't matter. It took the fun out of it. And, you know, that was important. So, I mean, when you want to get kids into the outdoors period, whether it's bass fishing or fishing in general or hunting of any kind, you got to make it fun for them. I mean, you don't want to take them out the first time and take them deer hunting and make them sit all day in the rain or anything like that and not see anything. Kids need action. So you don't take them bass fishing, you take them to the pond where they can walk around, they can throw rocks, they can chase frogs, they can catch bluegills, because to a kid, a 4-inch bluegill is a big fish. And eventually, after they catch a lot of those, they'll get, you know, that excitement will wear down and they'll want to spend the extra time to try to catch a bigger fish and then maybe go after a bass or a catfish or whatever it is. So it's so important to show them action, for them to see things. So that's why, you know, starting out squirrel hunting or rabbit hunting is a great way to go, or duck hunting I love to duck hunt because it's social. I mean, deer hunting is awesome, but you're basically sitting there by yourself, or you might be in a box blind with somebody else or whatever. But for the most part, it's a solo kind of deal where being able to go, you know, with 4 or 5 guys and set in the woods, duck hunting behind a tree or in a blind, it's pretty special. You know, I mean, we do a big deer camp at our place every year before opening day, and that's it's a huge tradition in Michigan where I live, and I haven't missed an opening day. And believe me, I'm a passionate bow hunter, but opening day of gun season it's a holiday for us.
It's in your blood, yeah.
I mean, my dad took me when I was a kid.
Wow.
You know, and I just remember those times. It's a tradition that, you know, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, upstate New York, that happens every year for, you know, the firearms opener. Schools close. Yeah. I mean, towns pop up. I mean, if they miss that 2-week season, you know, in those areas in the northern parts of the state, I mean, that business that they get from the influx of those hunters, it would be detrimental to a lot of those business owners. So until you've experienced it, it's hard to truly understand. I mean, I've got to, you know, go and spend a lot of time and hunt in Texas, and I have a lot of friends in the South and Alabama and that, and I get that everybody's passionate about it, but I don't know, I think what we do is pretty unique, and it's dang sure special to me.
Your daughter's been begging you to hunt since her little brother shot the big 8 last year. You've ran a fire, dissed the fields, got stuck, got unstuck. Planted food plots, fertilized, and prayed for rain. You moved trees, limbed roads, even bought one of those fancy cell cameras.
So what's your excuse?
LS Tractor.
Moultrie has pioneered the game management category. Today, Moultrie is one of the best-selling brands of feeders and seeders in the world, and they continue to innovate with new technology that gamekeepers will rely on. Moultrie products are always field-tested and designed for hunters by hunters, combining forward-thinking innovation with time-tested practicality. Moultrie, first in feeders since 1979. All right, so guys, Moultrie is offering our listeners a 15% site-wide discount at MoultrieFeeders.com. Use code Mossy Oak with a capital M, Mossy Oak, at MoultrieFeeders.com and get that 15% discount.
When I was at Sara Lee Corporation, one of the sister companies was Hillshire Farms in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Very famous
Yeah.
meat brand. The Berniger family, Mark lives here and raises kids here. But they were telling the story about Mr. Berniger. Every year they would shut the plant down for the 1 week of deer season. And finally, one year he was like, we can't do this anymore. It costs so much money to the operation and everything. So he laid the ultimatum. We're opening up Monday morning. I know I think now I may be wrong. But this is what I remember. Saturday through Sunday. So like maybe 9 days, but it was a week basically for deer season. And so he said, Monday morning, this plant's going to be open. And if you're not here on the production line and at work, you're going to lose your job. And he laid a gauntlet down because it was just, plus I think it's because they were owned by another company and kind of had the pressure was on. So, again, this is what I remember him telling me. I hope it's right. I'm pretty sure 40% of the workforce showed up for work. 60% said, I quit if you don't let me take off for the first week of deer season. And he had to renege on the whole thing and go back on what he said and say, okay, it's okay to take off the first week of deer season. That's how powerful they love it in that part of the world. That's my story from that, northern whitetail. We think that the world revolves us around in the South and how much we love to deer hunt. I mean, everybody loves it everywhere.
So back in the day, how long were the seasons there in Michigan? Just a week or two?
So our gun season has been the same forever. Firearms is November 15th to November 30th. They don't open on a Saturday.
2 weeks.
It's whatever the 15th is. So every year it's a Monday. Then it's a Tuesday. Then so it's kind of crazy because like Missouri does it always the second Saturday in November, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of places do that. And the way our state biologists think, it would be way better from a numbers standpoint of just what the overall amount of deer that would be killed during deer season would be better if you let people hunt, the weekends.
Yeah, add more weekends. And I'm thinking
the tradition is so strong with those dates.
Cool, actually.
That's why they haven't changed it.
Yeah, and you would bring more economy to the state too for more weekends, but that's pretty cool that they won't do it because of tradition.
When's the rut there?
We're mid-November rut, so
it opens
well-timed.
right. It opens right at the
So the peak breeding period phase and where I live in Southwest Michigan, I would tell you, the key is the 6th through the 12th when the majority of the does come in estrus and actually are bred. But there's still a lot of them on the 15th.
You don't want to be right in the middle necessarily either. So, wow, it's wide open when your season opens.
It's still really good.
See, ours never has. There's a couple of states like that, but ours in Alabama's where I grew up hunting. It was a long time before the rut, from when the season opened. In Alabama, where Bobby grew up, the rut was late January.
Yeah, so you had to pace yourself or you'd burn yourself out.
That's right.
We I love that week right around October 25th to November 2nd.
Thanksgiving.
And Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Pre-rut when those bucks are just by us they're running scrapes like crazy then, and you just That's just there's never a bad time around then, but that's I like that before they get locked down.
Yeah, you like pre-rut better than post-rut.
Yeah, they can both be pretty good. Just depends on how good your biologic is.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've got a really a unique place there, that you've got turkeys, deer, and waterfowl, and you've got springs.
Oh, we've got I've got a lot of fresh water on there. I mean, I was really fortunate to buy a piece of property that I actually grew up and went to school with. Two friends of mine, they owned it. I played on it as a kid, and it's the headwaters to a major trout stream, and actually salmon run from Lake Michigan right to where they can't swim another inch there. And so it's got a lot of water on it. And it's good bottomland, good soil. So there's, the native habitat forage is really good. And we did a lot. I mean, it was not, when I first got it, you could see, once the leaves fell, you could see 200 yards through the woods. It was just open. And I hated to do it, but I logged it, and we did it real well. And we initially started by just doing small little 1 acre to 2 acre little clear cuts, where I just drop the trees and we hinge cut them or pile them into one little area and try to create little bedding areas, but it just wasn't enough overall. And so now, after, managing the timber for quite a few years in different phases, and then obviously food plotting as well, just trying to, we've got a lot of ag around us anyways, big ag for beans and corn. So they do well from that already, but creating the sanctuary cover and a good food source where those does would just stay locked in to a small area, because we got to protect them by us. I mean, during the rut, I can't keep them from walking, but if I can have a lot of does there, and that they're not necessarily walking out of the perimeter that way and going someplace where they're going to be in harm's way, because there's so many small tracks around us. So yeah, I'm sure we don't save them all, but last year we had a pretty special opening day. For older deer, it's hard to do in Michigan to do what we were able to do then.
So
our age structure is the best it's ever been, and it's awareness from a lot of people, but especially for what we're doing.
So think about the year after you bought the place. You're all excited about this, and how long ago was that?
Oh gosh, it's probably been. My boys, 20 years for sure.
I was gonna say 20.
You wouldn't even recognize it.
Well, so I wanted to ask you about body weights, average body weights then, average body weights now, antlers in terms of inches then, now.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of improvement have you seen?
Night and day. So on the antler inches, I mean, it's ungodly, the difference, but it's not just me. It's co-op with all the neighbors,
Right.
understanding QDM, and we're all kind of on the same page and working together, and we're all doing a lot of the habitat improvements and things. It's really come full circle. And the overall body weights are better because our age structure's way better than it used to be. And when I started, the majority of the harvest in my area, 90% was 1.5-year-old deer,
Wow.
and now,
So sad.
so now, we're hunting, 3, 4, 5-year-old deer is what we're targeting. So they're getting a free pass as a yearling by most people. I mean, it's still some of that going on. Most of them are getting a pass at 2, and some of the best 3-year-olds are getting, unfortunately, but it's hard to tell somebody, when the biggest deer they've ever seen walks out in front of them, and they've got 10 acres to hunt, that they shouldn't shoot that deer.
Sure. Especially kids too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, I've got first time hunters as well, and anybody that's, we try to help them, but I'm not going to chastise somebody for making that mistake. We try to explain all of that. We do the best we can, and that's why it's best to have somebody to hunt with them if you can, and try to teach them that as well. I mean, that's super cool to be, because my boys have went from those kids early on to wanting to shoot everything that walks out in the field, or when you're fishing, it's the same thing, to keep everything that you catch, to now understanding, hey, there's a lot more to being a gamekeeper and being a good steward of the land and trying to have a healthy herd and manage these, not just for deer, but for all the wildlife, that just how important it is. And honestly, I have to give a lot of that credit to some friends of mine that took me to Texas. And that's where I learned how to age deer and about some of the, I mean, I learned that a long time ago, and it's like nobody was doing that by us. And I'd go and tell my friends at home, I'm like, well, yeah, here's a picture of this deer. Well, why didn't you shoot it? And I said, well, it was only a 4-year-old. And they're like, what do you mean a 4-year-old? That's no mentality that anybody ever had by us. And now when I'm getting my Spartan photos and things, yeah, it's great to look at the antlers, but I'm looking at the facial features in the body and just trying to determine the age. And I'm a lot better at it. I'm not as good as I thought, because even a lot of the deer that I've gotten a lot of pictures, and the video feature is so awesome. Like, it's so much better than just getting a trail camera photo to really see. But it's still not 100% science to tell the age of a deer, but if you got the history of them and they got a unique rack, or you can find the sheds and things, and that's hard to do by us. I mean, our tracks are still fairly small, but we take it serious. It's myself and my friend group and our boys all grew up together and doing it. I mean, it's something that we're thinking and working on 365.
We talk about it a lot. It's just the observations from listening to him is that it became as much importance and as much fun, the process, than actually the killing. Although, look, we're hunters and we're never going to get past that exhilaration, that thrill of killing a big deer. But, and then that spreads to all his neighbors. Quite honestly, some of the best places that I've ever seen or heard about in the country weren't necessarily huge tracts of land, but it was cooperatives. So you actually had more intensive management, because every 50 or 100, 200, 300, whatever acres had its own person watching out and doing the stuff, as long as they would cooperate together. And, just like somebody's going to shoot one every now and then, they shouldn't, and whatever, what it's not worth is taking the fun out of it by looking down your nose at people doing that. I mean, you can show them the light of the fact that, what you're doing on your place. And if they want that, they'll be willing to sacrifice and let the deer grow up. But what? Some people are thrilled. And so good for you for not like condemning it in whatever.
No, you don't.
You can't take the fun out of it doing that. But I was going to make one more observation, is that, it's funny how you learn from your kids. And I remember one of the early podcasts, you had Daniel in here, and he talked about how critical it was in a life outdoors to maintain your sense of wonderment, which is like a heart of gratitude type thing. And I'm so big on, and you watch, it's like, he talks about all this, and it's, now that he's become a full-fledged 24/7, 365 gamekeeper, he has that sense of wonderment of a kid talking about all this and raising them and doing the right and getting family and getting friends involved and all the traditions. It's like, your year is so full of enjoyment and everything when you live that cycle, and it's, face it, we're tied to nature and earth in the seasons of the year, because there's something now to look forward to every season.
Well, let me just tell you this. And, I've been a professional bass fisherman for 33 years, right? On tour. And even this last season that I had, I learned so much every single time on the water still. And it's the same, I've been food plotting, I told you, for 40 plus years. And I still learn a ton every year.
Right.
I mean, the Drury's are a good friend of mine. I'll talk to Mark and Terry and Matt and say, look, man, I'm seeing this, or this is the weather I got, or what about, have you tried this particular blend, or this is my soil? I mean, as much as I've learned and known, and as much information as you've got, and you can look up on an app and read in the magazine and watch videos on and stuff, there's no substitute for the time on the water or the time in the woods, and it's always changing. We're dealing with things that we never had. Like a lot of my property has a ton of ash on it, like millions of ash trees. Well, the emerald ash borer came up there, killed every single one of them.
Wow.
And it just, which was actually kind of a blessing in disguise, because it opened up a lot of light to the forest floor.
Right.
And ash has really got not really much, nutritional value or much value to deer anyways.
Mm-mm.
So it was kind of that was one thing. Another thing that's been real bad for us is those gypsy moths. So they'll go through, and in July, they'll go be a whole oak forest, and they're in a leaf one. I mean, they'll eat it to where it looks like it's November.
Wow.
And it's killed a lot of the oak trees.
It has killed the trees.
It's
wow.
2 years of it in a row now.
Wow.
I've lost about, not a third, but not a quarter, but
Wow, that's a lot of oak trees. I didn't realize it.
Old trees.
We get them around here, but they don't spread that. They're not that widespread.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, and most of the time I've showed Dudley when I was raising some trees and it would eat all the leaves up. It would just be like a spider web left of the little veins on a leaf. And he was saying,
yep.
Of course I've got something that I'm growing and it's irrigating. He said, it'll come back. Don't worry about it. And they always have, but I hadn't seen them actually kill trees.
We've had a couple of guys email us photos from the Delta this year asking what was going on, and that's what was going on.
Gypsy moth.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, big chunks.
Yeah, they've regenerated, but some of those trees, after the stress of it, we had another drought year this year.
Yeah, that's the hard part. The drought is at the same time.
The extra stress on the trees, it's killed a lot of them. I mean, you can drive down the road to my house, and every 300 yards, there's an oak tree that you couldn't wrap your arms around, and it's dead now.
I am a oak tree lover.
Imagine that.
Yeah, and I mean, not just because of the name came from that. No, I just have always been in love with oak trees, and I think part of it is getting programmed as a kid. My earliest hunts, I've told this a million times, was squirrel hunting with Daddy. So, it was all about finding oak trees and studying oak trees in the woods and everything. So I just have always been obsessed and love. When the nursery started me growing oak trees in the backyard, that's sad that when you see it's such a work of art, a mature, canopied, producing lots of massed oak trees, such a work of art, by God. I hate to see it, and it can happen with any parts of nature. They can blow over in a storm, but I hate to see something kill them. Yeah, it breaks my heart.
Well, that's the things that, we're constantly going to have to look at and deal with. And, I'll tell you this, I've been around, lived in the outdoors my whole life, made my living on the water, is Mother Nature always wins. Always.
It's crazy what all there is to try to take away what we do.
We can try to manipulate a lot of things, and
I don't know. It looks like you've won a lot. If you a lot of things in those fishing tournaments.
Well, if you watched my last event of the year on Saginaw Bay on the final day, I was leading going in, and she shifted and she won that day. So
wow. we were cheering for you. We were all watching that.
It's that's the thing. I mean, what we try to do as a gamekeeper, all of us together, is we really try to help her and enhance the what she's already doing, and just be a good steward out there for what's going on every day, and I guess, maybe we have a little bit of our own agenda involved, but there's nothing like watching out there and seeing a group of toms all strutting there in the early spring, or, in a summer food plot, looking out in a bean field and seeing 6 or 8 bucks out there standing there together. I mean, we all, that's what we're all trying to maximize that as much as possible. Or when you go out in the water, you want to, we want to catch not 3 bass, we want to catch 10, right?
Right.
So, I mean, there's something to be said. What's really special, we all have to, we work hard, we've got jobs, you got to make a living, you're raising your family, you're doing things, but what is that gives you that personal satisfaction and enjoyment, and what makes life really unique and special is how awesome the time is together in nature, on the water, in the woods. The pandemic taught us that, a lot of people that had forgotten that, just how great it is to be outdoors and to be with people that you love, with family, with your wife, with your kids. And it brought a big resurgence back to every outdoor activity,
No
whether it's,
question about it.
you know, morel hunting in the spring to hunting or fishing or kayaking. You know, people got, you know, we all get caught up in our world and work and things like that. And that's what is special to me about being a gamekeeper. Because believe me, I spend way more time, 3 times the amount of time on all the other stuff than I actually do ever with a gun or a fishing rod in my hand. I spend a lot more time not, you know, and that's the process that I love.
It's hard to say because you don't want to ever talk and be elitist about it or point fingers or whatever. But if people would just taste the joy, the satisfaction, the sense of wonderment, and all those things that when you kill a deer or whatever, ducks, a big gobbler, whatever, and you know you had a hand in growing them instead of just like going somewhere and shooting one. And I'm not putting anything else down, but I'm just saying if you taste that, and then you know, by the grace of God, doesn't have to be that you actually own the place, but you've got a place to then work on in your life's work to be able to do that. There's nothing like it. And I hear people say all the time that finally I remember the transformation of Cuz a long time ago, and he killed his first deer on his place that he owned himself. And he said, I never dreamed I could go kill a big buck on a place I didn't have to either pay or go beg permission to go hunt there. And so, you know, that's one reason I think why we got into every facet of the outdoors in business is that our mission, as I said earlier today on the podcast, was connecting human beings with nature. That's what we do as a brand. Is hunting in the epicenter of that? 100%, because we don't believe without hunting, you know, you can't manage wildlife properly too. But anyway, just having that whole journey in life has helped you realize more and more that people need all these things. And the greatest blessing is having the dirt. Yeah. You know, so I'm not wanting people to tune out because they can't buy some land. You can find somewhere to work on. Yeah. And don't judge it by what Kevin's got or what Bobby's got or what I've got. Just do it for the joy of you and the land and the critters. I'm telling you, if we can give people more value in their life as quick as it passes, then I think the job accomplished with Mossy Oak. And listening to Kevin talk about it should inspire so many people because then he gets such a full life out of doing this stuff and sharing it and have his family. You know, that's the thing about land. The biggest thing about owning a place is like it's the glue for your family. Oh, it's 100%. You know, you doesn't have to be a big place. Bobby's got the place of his over there now.
I know I have a lot of friends that, again, just because of how it is around there. I mean, if it's 10 acres, it's 10 acres. But I'll promise you, when you have something like that, you can do such, you know, you can put such a focus on it and really do an amazing job. One of my best friends bought a place a couple of years ago, and it's, you know, it's his dream farm. You know, it's not in the greatest area surrounding area. It's, you know, less than 75 acres, 73 acres. Right. And he has transformed that into a virtual little paradise for the wildlife that he's got there. I mean, it's loaded with turkeys. Deer, it was so open that deer would never live on there. They just would walk through. And now, I mean, he's got switchgrass planted for cover and food plots, and he timbered it all off, and he created water holes. And I mean, and the amount of time that he spent, but it's not the time, it's the pride in doing the work yourself and seeing the improvements and seeing the change that makes it. That's what's fun about it. I mean, I love the process. One of my favorite things is to jump in the tractor or the skid steer and just go tear stuff up, you know, knock down brush and trees and
Tonka toys.
Yeah. I mean, me and my brother-in-law, Russ, and my brother-in-law, he's my partner in crime. I mean, him and I, grew up as hunting partners. You know, once I married my wife, we've hunted a lot together. We've traveled a lot to a lot of places. He helped me with twin boys. It's not easy to get them both out at the same time. I mean, through their whole early career, I mean, he'd sit with one, I'd sit with the other, so we could always have them out or whatever. And you know, we have been through a lot and seen a lot together, and that's a big part of it. You know, man. So you don't have to have a huge place, but we both of us love, and he's real bad about tearing up equipment because it's mine, not his.
I resemble that remark.
So let me ask, and Dudley looks like he just walked in. So Dudley, we're glad you made it. Come on in here and join us. And
It smells like smoke for some
That's
reason.
right, yep.
Yeah, I need to give y'all a report in a minute.
So Kevin, I want to ask you, both from a hunting perspective and from a fishing perspective, is there a deer that haunts you? Is there one that got away that when you close your eyes, you can still see him and you think, boy, if I'd have done this, it's the biggest one I ever saw. Anything like that?
Yeah, I've had a few over the years. So I have one that I saw in Manitoba one time, and I found a shed. So it looks similar to what's laying on the table right there.
Yeah, that's a
And
big one.
I saw this deer from a distance one year, and then, after that, I was obsessed. The following year, we looked for that deer. We found a sign, but I never. I got a shed from him, but I've never reconnected with him. And the problem is it's pretty hard to get to Manitoba for more than a week a year. Where around me, we've been fortunate to be able to have some pretty cool deer. And last year, we had a double drop tine, non-typical, show up on camera. And my neighbor, who's a great gamekeeper, one of the reasons we have the hunting that we do and the success that we do is because we're all in alignment. We share pictures. We show, hey, this is a young deer that we'd really, like to let go or whatever. So we're all on the same page about what we do. He's doing all the same things that I'm doing, and he saw this deer the same time as I did, and we were both hunting him hard. But to have a matching double drop tine deer, trophy deer, is a 1 in a million. It's a unicorn. And man, I spent a lot of time. As soon as I got pictures of him, I knew that was going to be the deer I was after. I sent you pictures of him. I showed him to you. And I've had him in bow range like 2 or 3 times. My son, Nicholas, had him run underneath the tree chasing a doe. I had him pegged. I called him in, and he stopped at 40 yards, and I just did not want to take that shot where he was quartering towards me.
Wow.
I know I can make that shot, but on that deer, I did not want to risk it. And then my neighbor ended up killing him the next morning, which I was super happy for him because, again, he puts in way more time and effort than I do, and he's just as passionate about it. And he works really hard on it, and he deserved it as well. And
Was the deer as big as you thought he was?
He ended up, I don't know that he was old as any of us thought, but he's just such a unique deer and a lot of mass in it. He was in the upper 150s.
And he wasn't done yet. So.
Yeah, it's a deer I couldn't pass. He's a 1 in a million, and to have that, and I've killed a few drop tine deer. I killed one in Canada. I've killed one in Kansas. I've got a few, but not like this that have matching double drops. It was a really special.
And your neighbor getting that buck, considering that you guys are in cahoots and you're working together. It's like you've got one place. And
But he reminds me of Dr. Chamberlain. In fact, they get so much more fun out of their deer season. He's in a club, talking about being in a club, but he literally describes to us like it didn't used to be this way. They've kind of grown out of. There's not a bunch of jealousy, running to get this stand, mad because I can't hunt here. Everybody's so happy. I think because they got a group and they all feel like they've done, it's not like Mike killed the Big 10 that scored 170. We got him at our club, and he said there really is almost no.
That's the way it is for us.
And that's really what I'm saying. What you have is honestly, it's something to cherish when you have a group that you feel that way.
Yeah.
Because even in the company, we have some people here, it's just like, oh my gosh, you killed another turkey. And then some people, like, everybody's happy for them. And so, we should be, like everybody always hates on Bobby killing turkeys all the time.
Yeah, those wee deer are just, deer are more special,
Toxie, is there a deer that haunts you? You've been hunting a long time.
Honestly, no. Not really.
That's pretty good.
I wouldn't say a particular deer, no.
Kevin, have you ever reached for is there a fish that haunt you? You ever reached for a 15-pound largemouth and he got away?
I've had a ton of them in my tournament career that I've,
Oh gosh, I forgot about that, the tournament part of it.
Yeah, lots of them, time and time again. I lost one, and we had fishing a tournament in the Kissimmee chain. It was a spring tournament, and actually Dean Rojas broke the all-time 5-fish record the first day of that tournament with like 5 for 46 pounds.
Holy
And
mackerel.
that first day, it went from cold to warm, and I was on the north end of the lake, and I was buzzing down the slick calm, and I saw a big glowing bed there with one sitting on it that looked like he was 30 inches long. And I'm like, oh my God. And there was like 20 minutes to go in the tournament before I had to weigh in. And I started casting at it, and I could see right away that this fish was acting interested. And I had a flipping stick with big line, and I mean, it didn't take me 5 minutes to get it to bite. And I set the hook, and it come out of there and just went ballistic. And I mean, it was a 12-pounder for sure, every bit of 12 pounds. And it came off. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And the clock's ticking, and I've got like 10 minutes to go. And I'm just sitting there waiting. And I seen it swim back up there and swim through. And then it kind of ghosted back by again. And a 3 minutes later, here it comes and sets right back on the bed again.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I picked up a different bait and started casting, started working her, started blah, blah, blah. And I'm down to like looking at the clock going, and I'm a mile from the ramp from check-in, so I can be there. And I got it to bite again and hooked it and got it all the way to the boat, and it came off again. And I lost, and the way the tournament worked out, the weather changed and all that. And I had a real good finish there. But I mean, if I'd have caught that 12-pounder the first day, it might've been a whole different event,
Double heartbreaker.
Oh, it was,
wow.
Everybody's got the one that got away, or, big deer, they're always the most elusive, or,
How often do you think that you can hook a fish and that you could tell that fish? Do you think it's maybe they have the bait, maybe it's a jig or a worm, they didn't quite get the hook, and just hanging on and didn't feel the hook?
When they're spawning, and especially a fish like that, I mean, their mouth isn't easy to penetrate anyways. Right. I mean, it's just, they're not biting it to try to eat it and swallow it down their throat or anything like that. It was just bad luck more than anything. But
so as much as you've fished in a lot of public water and stuff, do you ever just get to go to a private pond somewhere and 8 or 10 acres, and do you enjoy that as much?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, everybody likes to go to Disney, right?
Yeah. do you help people manage some ponds and give them advice and stuff?
I for sure have taught, through social media and things like that. I actually have a real close friend that's what he does for a living. And I've gotten to fish some places. Bill Dance, a great friend of mine. Bill's connected to a lot of people that, have private places here and there. And, he's a great wealth of knowledge on that. And of course, I mean, what we're doing as gamekeepers in the woods, people are doing the same in pond management. It's not rocket science. It's about balancing your population of your bluegills and your bait fish,
yep.
Making sure the water is good and fertile. Like we were talking about the golf course right over here.
And it's so productive. It's crazy.
Well, golf courses.
He said golf courses everywhere because the fertilizer is just pouring in there all the time.
Yeah.
So I got to say, forever when asked about the real estate part of things and buying land and whatever, I've often said from my journey, which has been almost 35 years now, and the learning, trial and error, it's like, so if you were going to buy a place, to me, to get that enjoyment, you hadn't had one before, especially, the first thing I would do, for me, build a pond. Because it's the one thing you can do, if it's not a real big track or whatever, is you can build it and do it right. And not only you can't do this with ducks, you can't do it with deer, sure can't do it with turkey. You can share it with a bunch of people. In fact, it's probably better for it, as long as you're organized, to put the fishing pressure on it to manage the population. And then your kids, if you got kids or grandkids, they can take their friends, they might camp out. The second thing I would say is if you can get some kind of place to stay on it or whatever too. But I've always said, even I'm like the hunting guy in Mossy Oak and all, I said a pond would be the first thing to get 365 enjoyment out of your place.
Well, and it's super beneficial for all the wildlife there too.
No question.
You have to have a good freshwater source for all the birds, the turkeys, the quail, ducks, deer, rabbits, everything. And you're right. One of the biggest things that a lot of people do when they have their own pond is not take enough fish out.
That's exactly
You
what-
can't. You can only have so many cows in a 10-acre pasture.
That's right.
And it's the same in a lake that you can only have so much biomass. And bluegills are so productive in spawning in that I would tell people they'd be way smarter to never put one back in their own pond. It's just to take all of them out. I've got a 2.5-acre pond in my backyard, and it's all spring fed and it's clear, so I can see the fish real well. And we manage it as well as anybody. I cannot catch enough bluegills. I can't get enough people to catch enough bluegills out of it to keep up with the population on it. Now bass, it's a different story, but you can really look at them and see by their health, and of course there's a lot of great people that can help you manage, especially in the South. It's very popular. Up by us, it's not, but you can anywhere from that standpoint. But there's something special about having a place that you can go and take kids that have never caught a fish before and catch them till they get tired of it. And that's what ponds are great for.
And you can clearly, even if you don't hire a biologist, and you can just talk to someone in your county. You can certainly, resources everywhere. You can go buy a formula and almost 100% guarantee results. And then you got the hard part is what you talked about. Once you get there, to keep it there in the way you manage it then. But if you want to do it, even on a smaller pond, it's there to be done, and you can guarantee that kind of success. It's rarely, you can't control that kind of environment in hunting like that.
No,
especially with migratory stuff. So you can do that with a pond. And then again, that's why I think, it's amazing when you fly over now or look at maps at how many just millions of ponds they are in the country, everywhere.
It doesn't take a very big pond to be really, really productive either.
Nozzler suppressors are made for hunting. Adding a Nozzler suppressor to your rifle will make you a quieter, more accurate, and more effective hunter. Protect your hearing and disturb less game with a Nozzler suppressor. The time to hunt quiet is now. Learn more at Nozzler.com.
The Furminator is the industry's most versatile piece of food plot equipment, allowing plotters to do every step of the process, working the soil, adding seed and soil supplements, and compacting, from start to finish with a single implement. It's hassle-free by design. Set it for the seed size and simply drive the tractor, and the Furminator does the rest. Check it out at thefurminator.com.
What about fishing pressure? We've got a lot of ponds around here, and it seems like sometimes, why aren't they biting? What's going on here? And it feels like maybe they've seen this before.
Well, it can be a factor, especially if you have real clear water. And in the South, in the heat in the summer, they're going to go to some of the deeper areas and things like that. And one of the best things you can do down here is fertilize the pond at the right times, which you sell it. You got a great fish fertilizer. It's the timing is critical on that. And again, you can go to the Gamekeeper magazine and learn all of that real easy. You don't have to have extra fish feeders, and fertilizers are way more valuable than fish food. It's way more valuable than fish food. It's starting at the at the plankton level.
Bucket.
That's where you can get the most for your.
Well, that's just like you talked about your property and opening it up for sunlight and increasing the carrying capacity of your place is way more important than the protein feed for the deer. So you got to start with what's the most important. And then if you want to feed them too, the great thing about the fish feeder is taking those kids and guaranteeing them to jerk them out of the water.
No, what I'm saying, it's a great addition. It's like going to having a good piece of that's got good native browse and then putting a food plot in there. You're going to have a magnet for them where they're going to come. So a feeder is a great choice too. But if you're going to do just one simple thing, fertilizing the pond that's the foundational piece for sure. But all of that is you don't have to do a whole lot in most ponds anyways. You really don't. Catching the fish is a big part of it. The pressure, like you said, going back to if it's clear, they can get real, and they know, like, if they see you walking around and they can feel you walking around. But overall, we're not near as good at catching them as you think. And I've learned that thinking, I think I'm a pretty good fisherman. Well, I've gone out and fished a couple places. I did this in Florida. I've done it in ponds before, and then go with an electroshock boat and see what you missed. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, Florida fish are the worst. Too.
Oh, they can be fussy.
They're so finicky.
Yeah.
But everybody's, they want Florida strain. That's what we're stocking in a lot of places. You're seeing, and we're doing a lot. Like Major League Fishing with our fisheries management division, we're sampling during all season long on tour for the last few years. We scale sample every fish that's 7 pounds or bigger anywhere in the country.
Wow!
And they're actually doing genetic testing to see what their DNA is, and how many of those are pure Floridas, or they're mixed, or they're northerns, or what exactly their genetic background is for it. And without fail, most of them, especially even we had one as far as Lake of the Ozarks this year, which is the furthernmost that they've ever seen 100% pure Florida native strain bass at Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri. So, and that's a fish that for sure got stocked there.
Wow.
And so, everybody wants to catch bigger fish, right? So that's why they're doing a lot of this. But that research is helping everybody else, saying, well, hey, yeah, we can actually, this can make a difference, in these regions. Or, if we've got Floridas, it can enhance the overall population or the genetics to everything that's there. So
science, what's going on with like what he's describing, what these universities like Mississippi State and some others are, all the state universities are doing tons of research. We're highlighting a lot of this, what we can on the Gamekeeper Show. It's really amazing how science has permeated its way into the wildlife industry.
They've come a long way.
Biology, science, and conservation all coming together.
Oh, 100%. And it's, I grew up listening to people, watch people. Everybody loves to have a theory, and I have theories all the time. But then what you've got to be so careful about is making theories the law. I mean, you talk to biologists that are really smart, and they're always skeptical about any anecdotal information, no matter how strong it is, until it's been actually vetted in the research process. So when they get there, boy, you got some great information. They're learning so much. Just think what we know today that they didn't when, like I was a kid, or Dudley when you were a kid, or when you were a kid. I mean, it's just amazing the information we have. Just the stuff we're able to talk about today that's common knowledge to us, they had no clue about. I mean, shooting a doe when I was a kid was like, you're banned for life from hunting.
What about spikes? At one time, they were encouraging everybody to shoot spikes.
And now everybody knows that a spike is just a late fawn, and that sucker can grow into a booner. I mean,
they had a spike that someone back when they could take them, way back when I think Dr. Jacobson had the deer lab at State, and they had a fawn. There was a spike the first year, and when it was 5.5, I think it was either 5 or 6, it was a true boone and crockett.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep,
sure do. 170-inch plus 5-year-old.
I hunted in Texas at a ranch where they encourage you to shoot all the spikes that you saw, and then 5 years later, 180 flip on that is like they don't shoot no bucks until they're at least 3 years old.
Yeah, I've often heard it's a everybody multitude of things work great for different people. So, but I've always liked the idea of give them to 3.5 to make sure. And if you don't like them, then if you're really convinced they're never going to make anything out of themselves, then sure, do it. But
I think the thing behind the spike deal is that in areas where you have a really high population of deer, it's going to take 1 to 2 more years for that spike to catch up. So he may have to be a 7-year-old to be a monster compared to a 5-year-old.
The asterisk there is in a balanced herd, you let spikes go. In an unbalanced herd, they probably, that's their whole thought process. Right. The reality, even where I'm at, is you can't shoot bucks there's no such thing as a management deer where I live, just because the population is it's so skewed. You really can't never tell.
Right.
So Kevin, we've talked about a lot of stuff.
Yep.
What should we be asking you?
I enjoy talking back and forth with like-minded people. I mean, the people that have the same passions and thoughts, and I mean, it's a great way to learn. It's, you know, you share. Just because I think something is the best practice because we've seen that and learned it in Southwest Michigan, it's just like your fire. I am just fascinated, intrigued with wishing that I could find a way to control burn some of. I just know how it. I've seen what it can do to re-energize an area and for wildlife, and I've seen it a little bit by me. They'll do some CRP, switchgrass or things like that after a few years, but I don't have that scenario. But I have some areas that I'd like. Man, I wish I could just get a bunch of regenerative growth. You know, just change.
It's tough in certain states, you know, to this day, but hopefully that can change in the future.
Well, it's I would do it. It's just the terrain where I have, and it being swampy, I just don't have any way to make a fire break there. You know, if we put a bulldozer, you try to drive a bulldozer in my swamp, you'd lose it.
Yeah. And historically, a swamp like that, you know, may have only burned every 50 years or 100 years. Whereas where we're burning up the road, you know, 200 years ago, it probably burned every other year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's unique because I've seen you know, some of the burn areas out west and things like that. I mean, it's natural, right? It's Mother Nature does it anyways. But to, again, just like we were talking as a gamekeeper, to, you know, enhance or to help Mother Nature along, I would just love to see what I could do for just creating a whole new, you know, set of browse and just habitat that would re-energize a lot of these old woods. I mean, just watching what happened when all those ash trees died on my place. I've got briar patches growing in the where there hasn't been a briar in 100 years.
You weren't here, but the ash borer hit him and wiped out every one of his ash trees.
So
thousands.
So 3 or 4 summers ago, I was traveling through like Ohio and New York and PA.
You see it everywhere in the summer.
You know, I mean, everything's a blessing. I mean, it's a blessing.
I
and
think
curse.
it's
but you know, we have let a lot of our forests just get overgrown over the years, and I hate that an invasive insect had to come and do that and set it back, and you know, a lot of people lost timber value. But man, the cover.
Yeah, it's been a godsend for us for sure.
The food and the cover, all
at
early successional
At first, it
stuff.
wasn't, but boy, it is now.
You got to look at the good. Yeah. You know, we had a tornado, F5 tornado, go through my place a dozen years ago, 1.25 miles wide of destruction. But you gotta make lemonade, and man, there were deer all. You know, it was like a big cutover. You know, for 5 or 6 years, and
nesting too.
Yep.
Kevin, I can't imagine what it must be like to go up there and go hunting with you. Toxie, I know you didn't get to go this year. Something came up, but next year you got to go.
I think we got to reel him down there. He just hadn't had much time. He's going to have time to visit and travel and come to camp and stuff more. I think I might could reel him into a couple of days of duck hunting as much as anything. That he has everything else. So he has some duck hunting, but I think I might could, especially down here, a really fun time at home where we're sitting in West Point is that right before Christmas is the rut will be wide open, and typically by then we have a good many ducks too, so you can mix them together.
Well, that's the beauty of where I live, that our seasons are different enough where you can experience a rut twice, or you can experience turkey season twice. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Our turkey season, the best time is mid-May. We didn't even open until the last week of April, right. And it's done in the South in a lot of places. So I know that's like paradise. I know that's part of why he likes to come is like, well, it's already done in Ohio and every place else, and then you come there and it's like the trees are just leafing out, and you get to experience it all over again.
Old Bob Dixon used to say he would pack up when our season was over and head to Indiana or Michigan. He's somewhere every year. He had so many friends. He'd say like, it is amazing. It's like getting to go back in time 2 months. And of course, everybody just lives for that very first spring, the very first things are budding and blooming and gobbling and all of that's it's just magic. And it's actually the whole spring is, but the very first emergence of it, and to be able to go see it again. Yeah, it's very addictive.
It's a great time to be in the woods.
It
Even
is.
before turkey season starts, it's an
Well,
awesome time to be in the woods.
For me, it's always been, and that's probably maybe why I'm different, is it's tournament season then. So I'm always gone or whatever. But it's really awesome. Like when I got home this year, and it was after a couple of weeks on the road or whatever, and I come and get up in the morning and grab a coffee and go out on my deck, and it's sun's popping up and it's quiet, and you just hear the toms just, they're still in the winter flock early in the March by us, but they're just going off, and then they're, they come out and there's, 12 of them strutting together. I mean, it's a sight to behold.
Wow.
It's a good feeling.
Oh, it's, that's why we do it.
So, Kevin, right now, this week, we've got the Gamekeeper television show is about you. That's airing on the Outdoor Channel and some of the other apps around. So that was a really good show. We've had a lot of good feedback. So, guys, it'll cycle back around. It's a good show.
Oh, well, the Mossy Oak Go app is a great place to go. And, I mean, it's a great place to look for content from, food plotting to, you guys have such an incredible library of footage, way ahead of the curve. I mean, that's one of the things that I saw, at the very beginning of it. I mean, you think about the number of years of all the shows, right, and, hunting the country.
Well,
and
today's
Whistling
world,
Wings, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, people are, especially, it's funny how that younger crowd, say 30 and under, maybe 35, has gone to just loving stuff from before they were even born.
Watch, I mean, you just pull this up and you can see it on your time when you want.
Yep,
it's technology is pretty good.
It's crazy. They're conditioned to, they almost get insulted other than sporting events to like, why would you watch something when it comes on? I'm like, it comes on at 7, let's watch it. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'll watch it when I want to. Right. No, that's just a different attitude about stuff. Like my poor dad at 93, he can't understand the fact that if he doesn't see it when it comes on at 7, he missed it. And I was like, don't worry, it's nothing that comes on we can't pull back up and you can watch again. But he's just programmed that way, and he can't change.
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you what, I've enjoyed sitting here listening to you talk, learning from you. I've enjoyed following your career. Heck of a fisherman. And
you think so?
It's just amazing. It really is. That last week up there when that weather was turning, I had a tip I wanted to call you, but I didn't know how to get in touch with you.
No, it's going to be fun. Going forward in the future, I'm going to be doing a lot of television, a lot of content. Nowadays it's not traditional TV like it used to be. So I mean, we got stuff for social media, but we'll be doing a lot more gamekeeper stuff and things like that, going forward.
Well, our industry, hunting and fishing, is very fortunate to have an ambassador like you.
Big time.
Because it looks to me like, and I could be wrong, but you carry yourself, every aspect I see about you is impressive. Well, yeah, I'm just going to brag for a second. No, you can't say that about. I can't say that about Toxic.
No, but we talked at lunch, and I mean, but you look at the people that he picked through to kind of look up to, and you talk about what's first on the list, Bill Dance. There's not a classier person that ever walked. Yeah.
Ever, and every time Hank has sat there, all he's done is just go to about
oozes about Kevin. Yes.
Yeah.
Hank's pretty special guy too. I mean, he loves them turkeys as much as you guys.
Oh, yeah. He maybe more.
Yeah, he's pretty good too.
All the guys that I grew up watching, Roland and Jimmy. I mean, they are. I don't know, man. They're turkey fanatics. I guess when I was a kid, we didn't have any. Like I said, when I was a teenager is when it all happened. But I'm learning, and believe me, we're working real hard at it. So I'm very curious to. We'll have to get you guys up there and see what it's all about. Show what we're doing up there to try to help them at least.
Yeah, no, they've got them. It's crazy. It's funny. I was going down the list of all those anglers. There's so many that love turkey hunting so much, and then there's Bill Dance who really doesn't care about it. But his thing was, he's like, hey, if you come up, I just want to go do. We're not going to film anything. I wanted to go take you with my favorite thing. What do you think his favorite thing is? Catfishing.
Yeah,
he is obsessed and loves catfishing. Isn't that cool?
How about that?
Yep.
I remember when I was a kid, I saw him duck hunting on a TV show one time.
Probably made him.
That's how he could fish. He could fish the duck hole that way.
Dudley, you got in here late, but have you got a question for?
Well, I'm scared I'm gonna ask something before
That's why we
that
have
y'all
well,
already covered. But,
Go ahead.
I'm really looking forward to you hopefully coming to the nursery and checking on things, and we can try to pick out some stuff that'll work good in your area.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I look forward to every year at Christmas is I get a Christmas present from this guy right here, and it's from it's a dozen trees from the nursery, and it'll be 4 different oaks, and so I go and plant those. Fortunately, it's been nice where the ground hadn't been frozen, and so they come, and I'll go out and get them in the ground right away, and they're actually doing pretty good. The deer around me, I've tried to put a protective cage around some of them, and I haven't on all of them, and I've lost a couple, but they take right off. I mean, it's going to take a little bit of time, but my kids are going to see the benefits of that.
For sure.
And when I first bought where I live at right now, when we first got that property, my dad, he's the one that bought the property originally, and me and my brothers, we went out there, we planted a bunch of spruce trees. We got with a biologist, we planted some gooseberry, and we talked to him about different things that are going to be beneficial to wildlife. So we knew we needed thermal cover. That's why we did the spruces. We did these gooseberries for forage and for cover. And when we planted those to what they are now, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's a mecca for deer, turkeys, for blue jays, for cardinals, for rabbits, for woodchucks. I mean, we've just so when you're first doing the work, it may not. It's like, oh man, what, but down the road, I mean, I every time I look at those trees, I think of that time when I was there with my dad and my brother, and all of us out there doing that job.
I don't know if you're like we are, but in the past few years, when you were planting those, you were probably thinking deer.
Yep.
And now that we've gotten older, we've been doing this game keeping thing. It's just as cool to see a bunch of birds, go into those gooseberries and hang out, these migratory birds, and try to figure out what they are. It just makes sitting in the deer stand that much more fun.
I've got a box blind there, and I mean, it's all day, every day, in the fall when they've got those, and they have 1 billion, not 1 million, 1 billion berries on them. And it's all day, the whole time. Like say cardinals and blue jays, and it's a magnet for them, and the hawks and everything else that's hunting those too.
And we're figuring out how beneficial they are. Like the blue jays will pick up acorns and go bury them in the ground and forget about them, and so they all have a purpose. I hate that I shot so many with a pellet gun when I was a kid.
I did too.
Well, Kevin, this has been interesting. We are so proud that you're here for the event, and this week we're proud of the way you represent Mossy Oak Fishing and Mossy Oak Camo and Gamekeepers. It's
lifestyle in general.
Yeah,
it's not a camo company. It's a lifestyle. It's who we are.
Yeah, you get it. That's for sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So we leaving anything out, Rich?
No, he's gonna take a tour with.
Yeah,
Dudley.
I got a busy afternoon yet.
Get the tour going. So why don't you say goodbye, Dudley?
Goodbye, Dudley.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast, and be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine, and don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy Ronnie Cuz Strickland.